4-H camp is a blast.
I think 4-H camp is cool.
The most awesome experience of your life.
4-H camp is awesome and really fun.
While at camp, you'll take an educational journey participating in hands-on tracks like science, engineering, and technology, water safety, outdoor skills, nutrition, and much, much more.
I think it was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my whole entire life.
4-H camp is life-changing.
So 4-H camp is an amazing, one-of-a-kind experience that you'll definitely want to have.
4-H camp is awesome.
I'm Jo Hines, gardener and master gardener. This is our property in Bentley, and Bob does, as he introduced himself, he does all of the vegetable garden and the heavy stuff of hauling dirt and la-da-da, but I do the flower gardens on our property and am quite happy to be a gardener. I have found that gardening, and I think all the studies show that gardening is absolutely wonderful for your body, mind, and soul. It is exercise for our body. In fact, we got smartwatches, and Bob came in at 10 o'clock for coffee, and he'd already done 10,000 steps, and we both get 10,000 steps every day doing our work. But it's also the shoveling and the big body muscles that we use. It is good for your anxiety and depression levels. I can guarantee you, after you've chopped and worked all day, you're not going to have the energy to be very depressed and anxious. I just have found that gardening is just good for the soul.
Today we'll do a few demonstrations from our greenhouse. We have lots of things going on here, especially here in the summer. I like to start my own seeds, especially tomato and pepper seeds. The tomatoes especially are started in the winter, normally around the middle of February, and of course it's too cold to start them outside, so to take care of that problem I have just a homemade system here to hold what I need. One of the main things that's needed is a heat mat to provide heat from the bottom, and then the lights also help provide a little bit of heat, and when it's too cold I put a plastic sheet over to help retain some of the heat. This also makes kind of a greenhouse effect. Tomatoes need 75 to 80 degree heat to germinate. Peppers are a little bit warmer, 80 to 90. But since I'll have just, for example, tomato seeds only in here, I can set the thermostat to where I need it, about 75 degrees. I like to use the metal containers for the pots so that the heat from the mat is transferred better up to the bottom of the pot. The light, as I said, provides a little more heat from the top. I keep the lights on constantly before the seeds germinate to give them that extra warmth. After they germinate, I set the timer so that the light is on 16 hours a day and off for the remaining part. This gets them ready to be outside, that they'll get their normal light and dark cycle. As far as the watering of the plants, I like to use this type, just a baster, and the reason for that, after the seeds germinate, we don't want the top around the seeds very moist, because you can have a condition called damping off. This is where one day your plant is looking extremely healthy, doing well, everything is normal. The next time you may go out and it just totally drooped over. No recovery from that, but this is caused mainly from bacteria from too damp around the top. So from that point on, after germination, I just take water, direct it down to the bottom of my container where the seedlings are, and that is watered from the bottom to help keep that problem down. After the seedlings get their 3 or 4 sets of their true leaves, I move them outside from away from the light, gradually, a few hours, increasing the time outside each day to get them hardened off. Used to the sunlight, used to the wind blowing and that sort of thing. So this is my system for starting my seeds. I'd like to show you this tomato plant before I do it in the bucket. This is one option that you can have around your house. You don't have to go do anything expensive to have some plants. But before I do that, I'd like to show you one thing about all tomato plants have these. And if you look very closely here, you can see these little white, tiny root hairs. The important thing about these is that anything that's underground or even under mulch will grow into roots. This will help the plant take in more water and nutrients. This is one that I would like to go ahead and put in the bucket and have it going. But before we do that, the depth that you plant a tomato plant is not down here where you have a lot of stalks showing, but you can actually plant to about 2/3 of your plant. To do that, we need to take all this off, and I'll even take this off so you just have the top, because it have its growth tip and just keep on growing very well. Get this out of the pot. This may be loose soil. And one thing you want to do with your roots, if they're growing out around your soil in a circle, you want to kind of just tease them out like this so they will grow out into the soil and not keep going in a circle. These look like they're pretty well done. Now we're ready to go ahead and put it in the pot. We have an empty one here. I'll just get some soil here first and leave enough room so that most of the stem can be covered. And we fill this all full, we'll have most of the stem covered in dirt and have those roots growing out all around. We press this down, and this soil is very moist, so I think that we'll be good as far as water. Normally we would put some water on here. Now, all it has to do is grow and produce. We're going to transplant a tomato plant in the garden. As you can see, this has gotten very tall. Normally you would transplant a tomato while it had, these are true leaves here. You would normally transplant them when they have 3 or 4 sets of true leaves, but this one has gone on too tall. And we talked about before putting a tomato plant down in the hole, but there's another option that you can do when one is very tall like this. We also talked about the root hairs that develop into roots. And the way we can plant a tall one like this, instead of going straight down, we can put it in a little trench so that it's going sideways. That way, everything that's underground will develop roots. And we'll just leave the tip out. And this tip will grow away from gravity, will grow actually straight up, just like the other plants do, and you'll wind up with a regular tomato plant with just more root surface. So all you have to do is make your trench maybe a little bit deeper where your root ball will be. You see the roots growing out. We'll just again get them going out. Put this down this way. Take our extra branches off. Leave this tip. Make your trench long enough to cover everything. Put your covering back over. This way you'll have roots growing out on this whole section. As I said, the tip in about 24 hours will be growing up away from gravity, and you'll have a nice new tomato plant. We planted a tomato plant in the pot in the greenhouse, and this one in the little trench. On both cases, you need to water those things in. So we'll just make sure that the top is watered, make sure it's going in, and it should be ready to grow.
When we plant things in the garden or in all of my pots and containers, you can buy dirt, but we do not buy dirt because we live in the country, so we mix our own dirt. And the process is very simple. Here is dirt that was dug strictly from the garden, and it's very dense. It's just like, it's good topsoil, but it still is dense. Not good by itself if you're planting. So if you need to make your pot dirt or wherever you're going to plant, you need to add something to that. Sometimes you might pick up dry leaves and you can crunch them, or you can cut them with scissors if you need to. Cut just really small little chips and make your leaves cut up so that we're going to make the dirt more viable, more porous, more breathable. You can use bark. You can collect bark from the outside and just make little bark chips, and you can add that to it. You can find rotted pine cones, and you can take the little parts off, the scales off the pine cone, and add that. You will know when it's okay because the ones that are not ready won't come off, so good rotted ones. And so we are going to mix some dirt. Put first of all about 1/3 of our regular dirt in here, because you're just going to plant in a small container. Then we'll put the leaves, then we'll put some bark, and then we'll put some pine cone things, and then you mix. And see what a nice difference that is. It makes it breathable down in there. The roots can go down through it. It doesn't get packed. If I use the regular dirt, it would just pack in the pot. So this makes it very, very easy then to plant. Some containers we use, and I use everything. I use ice cream buckets, I use coffee cans, I use cups that you cut a hole, always cut a hole in the bottom. Tin cans have holes in the bottom. You can use your paper, cardboard coffee cups. You can use trash cans. You can use, as this, we planted a tomato in a bucket that's got a hole in the bottom, and I just put the dirt in there. So we're going to put our dirt, or you can use a regular pot, which we sometimes do also. But we're just going to put some dirt in here, and you fill it up to about 1 inch of the top because you want some space for it to be able to hold the water when you water it. And as Bob said, it's best when they're at this stage to set them in a container and water from the bottom so that they do not damp off or they grow mold or whatever. See, these have holes in the bottom. There are seeds in here and they're ready to sprout. We have used many different containers, any kind and every kind. A yogurt container, I planted an abelia in because it's got holes in it. Now here's what happens if you do not, let me get my pan. I just chunked these in here. Didn't realize there was not a hole in the bottom. See what happens, the water doesn't run out. These would rot in about 2 days, they're dead. So make sure there's a hole in the bottom of your container for it to come out.